Hello and welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life with your host Avik. This podcast is all about exploring the latest research, sharing personal stories, and providing personal tips for improving our mental health and well-being. Each episode will be joined by experts in the field of mental health, as well as individuals who have experienced the transformative power of a healthy mind firsthand. Together, we will dive into a range of topics from managing stress and anxiety to building resilience and cultivating happiness. So, join us on this journey to discover new ways to take care of our minds, bodies, and souls. And let's work together to create a healthier, happier world one episode at a time. So, let's get started. Hello and welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the podcast that is dedicated to exploring the mental well-being and the personal growth. I'm your host Avik, and today we have a deeply insightful and transformative episode lined up. So our focus is on a critical topic that affects many but is often misunderstood. So, men's anger issues. So, understanding and managing the anger can be a daunting journey, but it is essential for leading a fulfilling and the balanced life. So, joining us today is Patrick Casey. So, welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you, Avik. I appreciate you having me on.
Lovely, lovely. So, Patrick, before we start our conversation, I would quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners that Patrick is an advanced registered nurse practitioner turned personal coach. So, he has dedicated his life to helping men transform these self destructive patterns into the self love, respect, and the joy. So, with nearly 20 years of sobriety, extensive therapy, and spiritual journeys under his belt, his own story is one of the resilience and profound change. So, he now offers a new structured process and safe space for men to be vulnerable, uncovering the roots of their anger and learning to navigate it healthy. So, with this, without any further delay, we'll welcome Patrick to our show. Welcome to the show again.
Again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Perfect, perfect. So, Patrick, you mentioned, experiencing self-hate and insecurity despite years of disability and therapy.
Mhm.
So, what was the turning point for you in starting your own healing journey?
So it really goes back a long way because, in my childhood, I had a lot of confusion in my childhood. I did have abuse. I had verbal abuse, emotional abuse, but I kind of describe it as confusion because on one hand I would have the abuse happen, and then moments later there would be regret, remorse. I'm sorry that happened, and then tomorrow it or next week it might happen again. So I grew up. I had relatively a good childhood, but it was kind of a confusing childhood because I always had to kind of gauge the temperature of the rooms when I was a kid. When I would get up in the morning, go to the kitchen, what kind of mood is everybody in today? How should I behave today? Kind of walking on eggshells, you know what I mean? So it was kind of that thing where I didn't really know, could I be myself today? How did I have to behave? So I don't think that really made me become an alcoholic and an addict like I did become. But I did learn that when I drank alcohol, I did drugs at a very young age. I learned that I kind of felt okay. I learned that I just kind of felt whole and complete again. So come to find
Yeah,
out today, looking back, right?
yeah,
I was basically numbing myself. I was self-medicating, if you will, right?
yeah.
So what happened is through my recovery journey, even though I've helped hundreds, maybe thousands of people in sobriety to overcome drugs and alcohol addiction, and I also work as a nurse practitioner, as you stated, I work in the state of Florida. And in the state of Florida, here in America, if you have enough experience, you can work for yourself. So I work for
Mm.
myself. I work as a contractor. I work in substance abuse, working in mental health and drug and alcohol addiction. I also have a primary care practice that I've been because of getting into personal coaching, have been doing less of. And the reason for that, Avik, is I really don't want to focus so much on doing medications and doing lab work and doing follow-up visits. I want to help people heal from the inside out. So I don't want to give people pills that are basically, in my opinion, for the most part, now there's always extenuating circumstances, but for the most part, a lot of people are taking medications, I come to find out these days, as an easier, softer way to deal with their problems, right? So instead of diet and exercise, instead of working on emotional problems, instead of doing therapy, instead of being vulnerable and processing things like you said, people just want to take pills because it's easier. So it came to where it was kind of in conflict with my integrity of who I am, who I want to be, and the people that I want to help. So what I want to do now moving forward is help people pluck up these issues by the roots and get rid of them once and for all. And so what I learned through my own coaching work in being helped is that I have core wounds. And until I address these core wounds and deal with them, everything else is just going to be a mess, right? So if I don't deal with my core wounds of feeling rejected, of feeling disapproved of feeling unworthy and unloved, like you stated in the beginning, then I'm going to lash out at people. I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to isolate. I'm going to repress my feelings. So in talking about anger, I'm either going to explode with anger and rage, or I'm going to repress those feelings because I'm afraid of being angry and rageful. And then it's going to go from repression to depression. And so now I'm going to struggle with depression. And I'm going to isolate. I'm going to feel bad about myself. And I'm going to turn all that anger inward on myself. So the trick, and so kind of what happened with me, to answer your question, so that's really a long answer. So what happened is about 18 months ago, I was about 19, 20 years sober. And I'm thinking, I have this great career. I have a beautiful girlfriend. I live in a great place down here in Florida by the beach. I have all these awesome hobbies. I'm physically fit. I'm boxing. I'm playing soccer. I'm a very active guy. I'm doing a lot of things. And it wasn't until I went to a live event that was hosted by a podcast host such as yourself, who was she was hosting a live event on personal development type things. And I admitted in a room full of about 40 something people who I don't know, but the only person I knew that was there was my girlfriend. I admitted in a room full of people 18 months ago, I don't love myself. I still hate myself. I still talk very negatively to myself. Anytime I make a little simple mistake, I'm like cussing at myself, and you this and you that, and you should know better. And I'm like, I would never talk to you like that. I would never talk to my girlfriend like that. I wouldn't talk to a friend like that. Why am I behaving this way? And so looking back, what I noticed is that I was kind of like this pot of boiling water where the top, there's a top on the pot of boiling water just kind of bubbling, and any little thing would just blow the top off, right? Somebody would cut me off in traffic. Somebody would look at me wrong, or somebody would say something that, quote, hurt my feelings, and I would just explode. So I had to find out, how do I channel this anger? How do I deal with this? And what I came to find out is it's kind of like a pendulum of emotions. So the more angry and rageful a person can be, also the more peaceful and serene they can be. It's like a pendulum, right?
Exactly.
So if I'm just a little bit frustrated, then I can be a little bit happy. If I'm more angry, then on the other side, I can be even more content and joyful and happy and peaceful. So it showed me that I'm capable. I'm capable of doing the complete opposite and being the complete opposite person that my anger and rage happens to be. And so as I was doing this work and getting better, I had a couple episodes where I did fly off the handle, so to speak. And I thought, what's going on? And I came to find out a little more that I'm still frustrated with myself. I'm still upset about my childhood. I still have a lot more work to do. And today it is just night and day difference, Avik. It's so much better than it was. And so what I came to find out also, I had this kind of aha moment in talking with my own coach that, look, I've been helping people in substance abuse with mental health and drug and alcohol addiction for, nearly 22 years now, because I'm 22 years sober now. Like, I want to be able to help other people. I don't want to just have this narrow, blind and tunnel vision of just helping people who struggle with substance abuse issues. Why can't I help the everyday average man, the everyday average person who has some of these same issues? And I heard somewhere a while back that we are best equipped to help the person we once were.
Understood. Understood.
You understand? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm best equipped to help the person who is just like I was. And I
Mm,
can show that person and help them believe that, look, I'm not just reading this out of a book. I didn't just hear this in a podcast. I didn't just see this in a movie. I lived it. I lived this experience. I lived having trauma, having abuse, but I'm not a victim anymore. I'm an adult now. I'm not that 5, 6 year old kid anymore. I'm an adult. So I need to stop being the victim and I need to take back power and control. I need to be empowered to be able to do more with that now and to use that for good. And so I can help any person, any guy that might be feeling like just a little something's off, or I'm tired of my wife nagging at me all the time, or the kids are driving me crazy, or the boss is driving me crazy, or they're getting in verbal altercations, or maybe they're just not overall content with life. Like I want to be able to provide a
mm,
safe space that, like, as you said, the everyday guy is like, hey, we think it's not okay to be vulnerable. We think it's not
mm,
okay to have feelings. Like that's not the macho thing to do. We're supposed to go to work, provide for our families, and everybody's supposed to just, bow down to us when we come home. Like, and I came to find out that the women in our lives, they
mm.
want us to be sensitive. They want us to be intimate. They want to have that connection because what happens
Yeah.
is they might go find that somewhere else. And we're sitting there going, well, what, I work every day. I provide food's on the table. The bills are being paid. How could you cheat on me? Or how
Mm,
could you leave me? And we don't really understand that. Like we're not giving them that intimacy. And so it's about that
mm,
balance between masculinity and femininity. And I came to find out it's okay for me to have a feminine side. It's okay for me to nurture and foster that feminine side. Women like that. And they like the
mm,
masculine as well. And the masculine side is being mission driven and having a goal and having purpose and not letting anything get in the way. And the femininity is having that healing energy and
mm.
that love and that compassion, and like that's okay.
Exactly. That's very, very true. Yeah. Great. And also, like, how would you define the anger issues, particularly for the men's mental health?
So there's different scales, right, that I've come to find out. So there's different
Yeah.
levels, there's different energies, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like depression where you can't go from being super depressed where you're not leaving the house, you're not eating, you're not showering,
Mhm.
to then all of a sudden being happy, right? It has to be kind of an upward spiral, or depending what direction, maybe a downward spiral. So it has to be steps. So I can't go from being a rageful, angry lunatic who's, driving recklessly, trying to run people off the road, trying to get into fights, to then being a calm, peaceful, serene guy. So it's going to be in steps, and it's really all about what level am I at.
Mhm.
So I have this form. It's something that was passed on to me from my coach, which is called the feelings and needs list. So with feelings, there's a category of mad, and some of those feelings can be, and if you say these out loud, Avik, you can kind of feel the energy underneath it, right? So aggravated, agitated, bitter, enraged, frustrated, irritated, furious. Some of those are very similar, but some of those are different on the spectrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So it's about where am I on that spectrum and what's the energy and the power underneath that. And then it's about figuring out, well, what is the need that I have? So the only reason that I'm angry and frustrated and getting triggered is I have a need that I interpret as not being met. Right. So maybe I have a need for connection. Maybe I just simply have a need for space. I just need everybody to just give me some space. Maybe I have a need for compassion, for
Yeah.
safety, for empathy. Maybe I need to express myself. Maybe I need some companionship. So it's about figuring out what is the need that I have that's not being met, that I'm basically taking out on other people. And what I came to find out with my anger and frustration is to the extent that I am not giving myself love and self-soothing and appreciation, that the level that I don't do those things, that I allow other people to affect me. It's like having the buttons that, our families they know how to press our buttons, right? And so what I learned to do is to find ways to disconnect those buttons. So when they go to press those buttons, it's like nothing happens, right? The buttons
Mm,
are disconnected. And so that's what's happened over time. And what I came to find out, especially a big thing for me, my love language, if I don't know if you are familiar with that, right? My love language is words
mhm.
of affirmation. So the way that you're going to hurt me the most is going to be by what you say to me and about me.
Hmm.
But the caveat to that is today, that's only going to happen if I think there's any little bit of truth in what you say. So if you say, you're a horrible nurse practitioner, you don't know what you're doing, you're stupid, you're only doing this for the money, you don't care about us, that has no effect on me whatsoever because I know there's zero truth to any of that, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what somebody says to me, that is going to be how I get affected by that. And that's when I get upset. That's when I get mad because I'm like, you know what? They might be right.
Hmm.
There might be some truth to that. I don't want to hear that. And that's how it was when I was a kid. That's how it was as a young adult. And even until recently, over the last year and a half or 2 years, was that I was more easily able to be triggered by other people and events and circumstances. So I'm not sure if I answered it too well, but there's different degrees of the anger and rage, and depending on
Hmm.
where I am, it may take a little longer to bring that down to where I have more consistency with having contentment.
Hmm.
And I used to think, Avik, I wanted contentment. I used to think I just wanted to be content. And
Hmm.
then it was pointed out to me, why not like deliriously happy? Why not just be super joyful and just deliriously happy? Why just be content? Content is like, it almost feels like settling. It's like, well, I'm going to settle for this relationship because, she's good enough. So I'll settle for this. It's like, no, I want to have all of it. I want to have the best possible because I have come to believe that all of us are entitled to that. There's an abundance out there in the universe, and we're entitled to it. It's not like there's a finite amount of happiness and joy in the
Hmm.
world. And you get a little bit, you get a little bit, you don't get any, you don't get any here. You can have some over here. It's like I want to have as much as I can stand. So that's kind of where I've come with the anger right now.
Yeah, exactly. True. Lovely. And also, one thing is like, what are some of the common misconceptions about men's anger that you often encounter in your practice?
Well, it's like you said. I do have a free course on self-destructive behaviors, and in that I talk about things that we do that can be self-destructive. That, as I said before, don't have to just be drugs and alcohol. That things that we do that can be self-destructive, whether we're eating poorly to soothe ourselves, or maybe exercising too much, or having promiscuous relationships or gambling, or maybe we become workaholics, things that we do that are self-destructive. And so what I've found is in talking with especially clients, especially ones that have relapsed, a lot of them have resentment issues, right?
Hmm.
So it's everything we're talking about right now. They come to rehab, they go to treatment, they do a week, they do a month. We always try to get them to stay longer than possible anywhere I ever help out at. And then they get better, they make a little bit of improvement, then they go home. And then what happens? A parent, if they're a younger person and they're living at home, maybe one of their parents trigger them, or their spouse or a child or a boss, they go to work, somebody triggers them, and boom, they get angry, pissed off, and they say, forget this. And they go drink some alcohol, or they go do some drugs, or they go do maybe something else that's destructive because they don't know how to cope with the trigger that just happened. So, what I want to do more so now moving forward is helping them kind of nailing down what are those triggers, what are those core wounds you have that you're allowing other people to poke
Hmm.
those and activate those. So that's really the crux of it, because a lot of people, they can get all the self-knowledge and see the benefits of staying sober and even experience the benefits of staying sober, but until they work on whatever resentments that they have that are still lingering, that maybe they've ignored or repressed or just maybe not even aware of, they're going to just they're not going to do well. And if they do stay clean or sober for a while, they're not going to be content. They're not going to be joyful and happy. They're still going to be just kind of what we call white knuckling, just hanging on,
Yeah.
not really having the full enjoyment of the experience of being sober. And so they relapse and they come back to treatment and they do the whole cycle all over again. And so it's interesting in my position, also being in recovery for many years and then talking to them, to kind of ask them and to see a lot of the denial, and to see a lot of the excuses, the excuse making that happens for why they relapse. And as you can imagine, it's always pointing the finger at other people. And I shouldn't say always, but a lot of times pointing the finger at other people and not really taking ownership of again being empowered to take back control of your life and do some really cool stuff.
Exactly. True. Lovely. So, if you can also share, like, how important is self-love in the process of overcoming the anger issues?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. And some of the techniques I did, which to a lot of men, when you tell them, are going to sound funny, and or they might say that sounds stupid, or that sounds girly, or that sounds whatever, right? Because we all have our preconceived notions. So one of them is one technique I used was looking in the mirror
Hmm.
and saying this almost a mantra in a way. It's called a Ho'oponopono prayer. It's a Polynesian from Hawaii type of a prayer, and it's something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I love you, please
Hmm.
forgive me, I thank you." And I look in the mirror at myself. I look myself in the eyes as I say those, and I might be talking to myself, Avik, as I'm saying it. I might be talking to whatever spiritual higher being I believe in. I
Yeah.
might be talking to my younger self, and I'm saying, and I sometimes elaborate like, "I'm sorry I mistreated you for so many years. It was mean to you. I love you. Please forgive me for not doing better. Please forgive me for waiting so long to find you help. Please forgive me for treating you the way that I treated you all those years. I thank you. And I thank you for where I am today. I thank you for this journey I'm on and where I can see myself going now." So that was one thing. There were many other things. I did some silly stuff that when people hear these, they laugh. I did one thing like I went on Amazon and bought a superhero cape. Just a cheap little
Oh.
cape to put on. And what I do is, and what I've done is when I'm driving to work in the morning, I'll put on that cape as I'm driving down the road, and it gives me that feeling of like I'm doing heroic work. I'm doing good things because it's easy for me, even though I'm treating patients every day, I'm helping save lives every day. It can become just a job, right? It's something I do. I get up in the morning and I go do this for work, and then I go home. So it helps kind of remind me and get me in that role play almost of like I'm doing heroic stuff. So there's like costume play stuff like that people can do. There's dancing. You've heard the expression "dance like nobody's watching." There's sing like nobody's listening. So it's doing playful, silly things that we stopped doing after we were no longer kids, right? Remember when we were kids and carefree? Like we didn't care what people thought. We didn't care what people would interpret us as doing or being. Like we just did things because it was fun. We just went with the flow. We went with the impulses that we had. There were no strangers. I talked to everybody. I played with everybody, and played alone all the time. So like it's about tapping back into that creativity and finding hobbies and stuff that I like to do that I've probably neglected doing for so long because I was so trapped in the work mode and getting by and getting through it today and getting through it today. And as I started the journey of self-love and self-expression, I came to find out a lot of things about myself that I wasn't aware of. I used to have certain CDs for music, and I'm like, why do I have these? And I was like, well, I only have these because all those other people had it, and I thought that was the cool thing to do was to listen to this. So I started to really get more honest with myself and what does Patrick love? What does Patrick want to do? What are the things that fill me up? And so I am so busy today. It is crazy all the cool stuff that I do today. And I'm doing stuff that angry, mad, hurt, resentful, victim people don't do because I wouldn't think that I deserve to do all these awesome things that I'm doing today. So I'm having a lot of fun today, and I have no regrets. I don't feel bad. I don't feel like I'm missing out on other things. It's like I'm just having fun, trying to have fun with the whole deal, while also being responsible and helping people and, working a job and trying this exploration into personal coaching to see if I could help the everyday man try to get better, try to find a way to talk about things and not feel like it's I don't just feel like it's not looked down upon or like you're weak or you're a wimp for talking about your feelings. We all have feelings. We're we're genetically engineered to have feelings and to process these things. And if we don't process them, they come out in other ways, and sometimes they come out in anger, sometimes they come out in bitterness. And if we have children, your children notice it, they see it. If you have nieces and nephews, they notice it. People at work notice it. And so what happened with me was I started coming across as just kind of a little lighter to people. They were just like, something's different about you. And the other thing too, Avik, about self-love, I learned how to receive compliments. I don't know if you ever struggled with that, but I learned how when people would compliment me to just say, thank you, I appreciate that. When people would compliment me before, I would make excuses. I'll say, yeah, but it's this, or yeah, but whatever. It's just that I was deflecting compliments because deep down I didn't think I deserved them. And today I own it, I milk it, I just embrace it. I wrap my arms around it whenever somebody compliments me. It feels good. It feels really good to be complimented and to agree with the compliments that I get today.
That's lovely. That's really, really lovely. I say, yeah. And okay, so uh, what advice would you give to the listeners who may be struggling with the anger issues or know someone who is?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on a course right now. I hope to have out in the next month or two about, and it's really more for women who have men in their lives who don't know how to help them, who don't know how to communicate to them. So I'm working on that because I want to be able to help people, especially women who have men who are like I was and like a lot of men are and don't want to get help. So it's about communicating that differently. So I am working on that. So I hope to have that out within the next month or two. But in the meantime, the advice I could give would be almost like look in the mirror and do you like what you see? Do you like the man that's looking back at you right now? What do you feel when you look at yourself in the mirror right now? Because there were many, many times I would look in the mirror and I would shoot myself the bird. I would say cruel and mean things to myself. And today I look at myself and I'm like, hey, how you doing, you handsome guy? Hey, man, you're looking good. Hey, that shirt looks really good on you today. Or, hey,
Mm,
you're having a really good hair day today. So it's about it's kind of like the three-step process that I have um, in my course, in my free course that you can get access to about self-destructive patterns. And the first step is, unfortunately, and it's the easiest but also hardest part, which is you have to hit rock bottom. You have to hit rock bottom. And then step two, you have to cultivate self-awareness. So you have to hit rock bottom and finally say, I got to do something different. I'm tired of doing this. This isn't working. What else? What other options are there? Maybe I try therapy. Maybe I've taken antidepressants. Maybe I've, done this other stuff with my wife or something like I've got to do something different. So I have to cultivate the self-awareness that I need more help. I want to get help and I surrender and I'm ready to do stuff that might sound hokey and weird and doesn't make any sense. And what does this have to do? And I just surrender over to the process and I go with the process. And then the third step is with typically another person is developing strategies to implement into your life, regardless of how busy you are or what your schedule is, tools and strategies to start shifting that momentum from the negativity towards the positive stuff, right? So towards the negative anger, rage, maybe just a little bit of frustration or just not being happy with where I am in life or just feeling like a little something's missing to, like I said, little baby steps to start going the opposite direction. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do, a lot of free stuff you can do that's out there, but it's not about listening to this podcast and it's going to change your life. It's not about reading a book that's going to change your life, right, Avik? You have to physically do something, and it's called neuroplasticity. You have to do things to change your brain. You have to change the way your brain thinks, and you don't do that until you do things that are hard, that seem difficult, and you do them, and then you look back and go, "Oh, well, that didn't kill me. So I'm going to do something else that's hard." And then you start seeing the benefits of doing those difficult things. And then you come to thrive on doing difficult things because there is no easy way, man. There's no softer way. There is no taking a pill that's going to fix it all. There is no reading a book and then you close the last page and then you're all good now. Like that doesn't exist. Does that
exactly.
help?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Great, great. That's really, really lovely. So, thank you, Patrick, for sharing your incredible journey and the valuable insights with us today. So, your work in helping men transform their anger and self destructive patterns into self love and the joy is truly inspiring. And for the listeners, I would love to mention thank you for tuning into Healthy Mind and Healthy Life. And if you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast and stay connected with us for more episodes that explore mental well being and the personal growth. So, until next time, take care of your mind and live your life to the fullest. So, thank you so much.
Thanks, Avik. Thanks for having me on again.